Nice to see all these free necks out there. Mine is one of them. I've created these memory books for both our honorees because I thought an evening like this could kind of fly by. Speeches, hugs, words, everybody dressed up. In a bit of a blur, and I wanted Barbara and Jessica to have a keepsake that they could page through when the night is over. These would also give everyone the opportunity to express some of their personal experience and their gratitude. We are teachers, educators. We draw out of our students their essential selves. These two teachers have taught many of us, have radiated their energy, their challenges, their curiosity, their skills, and wisdom to us, so that we in turn can integrate and radiate our unique qualities out to our students. And their teaching has shown out to students and colleagues around the world. Your contributions to this keepsake have been entertaining, surprising, and incredibly touching. Memory is an interesting thing. When I consider my own history with the Alexander technique, signature moments arise. In 1980, I was director of special programs at the Laban Institute of Movement Studies, where Jessica was becoming a certified movement analyst. I found out that she was trained in the Alexander technique. I really had no idea what that was. But I said, that sounds good. Why don't you teach an introduction to that? And she did. When a few years later, I joined a group class that Ann Waxman was teaching in our very second section. Where are you, Ann? I sensed the depth and metaphor of the work, and I actually had this sort of strange daydream of a series of windows opening. And she saw that look in my eye and said, you should think about training. It was a difficult time in my life, and I will always be grateful for that crucial nudge she gave me, speaking of nudges. Not long after, I ran into Jessica and Hal in the village. And pushing Spencer in his stroller. And I said to Jessica, I'm thinking about training. Should I go to Eileen Crow's once-a-month weekend program or to ACAT? And she said, if you want to change your habits, go to the American Center for the Alexander Technique, where you'll work on them every day. You can see by the size of Spencer how long ago that was. There he is, taking solid food. It's amazing. When I did join the training, I was so fortunate to have Judy Leibowitz, Debbie Kaplan, and Barbara Kent. It's a long time coming. Pioneers in the field among my teachers. Here's a letter from Paris from Rachel Zahn, who was part of ACAT's development in the earliest days. I wish I could be with you at ACAT. I was there at the very beginning with Judy and Debbie. What a luxury it was to train with Judy when we could spend a year just putting non-doing hands on and off. Think about it. Judy saying yes, then no, over and over until it began to make sense. That patience made all the difference. When ACAT found a home on Central Park West, the Alexander technique was ready to be visible. I remember creating a look for stationery, and with Judy's connections, forming a prestigious board of advisors. It was an amazing time experimenting with Alexander classes for actors. I am in France because Judy sent a young Juilliard voice student to work with me, Barbara Hendricks, who later became hugely famous in Europe. She just published an amazing book, Lifting My Voice. I remember Jessa coming to me for lessons, and I was so pleased she wanted to train. Charlotte Jackson came for lessons around the same time. Since I was teaching Kristen Linklater's trainees in New York City and England, Arena Stage in Washington, D.C. contacted me to see if they could have a training program at their theater. To my amazement, everyone at ACAT agreed, and I designed a mobile training system that included all the senior teachers. Although the financial plans changed for Arena, the actors continued their demands for Alexander Technique workshops, and Charlotte made it possible for me to teach them. She produced 4 Alexander trainees for ACAT. We were all such rare birds back then. For the most part, no one had heard of Alexander Technique except actors and people with difficult physical problems. Judy was just beginning to find a way to teach groups. It's hard for me to remember when teachers entered and graduated. I see Jessica, Barbara, and Charlotte and Missy all in the same period, but I'm probably wrong. Remy Charlotte came later in the 80s. What I do remember is watching new teachers evolve into master teachers. Over time, what a pleasure. It is so important that you have kept ACAT going. So I'm just very briefly going to read a few things from these books. And this is for Barbara. This is very truncated, but just gives you a little flavor. Barbara, you are the teacher I go to when I want a lesson. Your work is so extraordinary, and you are one of the most compassionate people I know, and you have a great sense of humor. John Austin tells a story. One of the most powerful experiences in my practice of the Alexander Technique was in a chair turn with Barbara Kent, when I realized that no matter how hard I tried to get it right, I couldn't sit in the chair without stiffening and plopping down into the chair. Barbara picked up on this and said, let's try it again, and this time, let's both be wrong. I then effortlessly made it to the chair without a plop. Barbara then followed up with a smile. It's never going to be perfect, so there's no point trying to be. And I'll just read one more from Dan Kayer, a very, very sweet story. I recently had a lesson with Barbara in the late afternoon. I had come to her with some difficulties that had come up in my teaching, and I was feeling stuck. I remember how she explored the stuck situation with such lightness and vital energy, and my whole perspective on teaching shifted. As the late afternoon sun was setting over Central Park, I remember feeling so heightened, alive, and excited to teach and share with others. Just about 30 minutes later, I received a phone call that my grandmother had passed away in the last hour. After the initial shock, I was touched that at the moment my grandmother was passing, I was having this incredible, privileged experience, doing what I want to do with my life and being in the presence of someone else who had so much to give. So Barbara, more than I could ever say, other people have said it. So I give this to you with great love and appreciation.
Thank you, Joan, for that. That's a huge and beautiful effort that she's done. And when you all have a chance to see it later, it's really gorgeous. So. thank you for all that you've done for all of us, in our profession. And through your work, you've promoted the Alexander Technique locally, nationally, and globally for nearly, are you ready, 4 decades. Pretty amazing. I don't know how you had time to breathe, let alone in any kind of coordinated way. I was looking at all that she's done. I don't know how she did it. In celebrating you, we're honoring an excellent teacher, friend, and colleague who's also been a leader in creating the programs where many of us now work. Jessica completed her training in 1977 at ACAT, and she's maintained a busy practice at Union Square since then. She spent time in London doing postgraduate work with Patrick MacDonald and later with the Carringtons. She began studies in breathing coordination with Carl Stow in 1978. She worked steadily with him until his death in 2000. He even worked with her through both her pregnancies with most excellent results. Their colors are really good. Jessica is one of only 11 people that Carl Stow designated as a teacher incorporating his principles of breathing coordination, a beautiful statement of her integrity. In 1998, Jessica established the Alexander program at the Yale University School of Drama, where she now holds the tenured position of assistant professor. This is the first Ivy League faculty appointment in the Alexander Technique at this level in U.S. history. In 2002, responding to the requests of fellow Alexander teachers, Jessica created her first training program for teachers in the art of breathing. Since then, she's graduated 58 teachers of the art of breathing here and now internationally. Her teaching resume includes faculty appointments at the Aspen Music Festival, the Juilliard School, SUNY Purchase, Circle in the Square Theatre School, Hunter College, Sarah Lawrence College, and the Verbier Music Festival in Switzerland, among many others. She's currently working with many performing artists who have appeared on and off Broadway and in films and television. She also travels extensively doing workshops for performers, teachers, and healthcare providers. And within our University of the Alexander Technique, Jessica has presented her work multiple times at AMSAT meetings all over the country, international congresses, and for teacher training courses and performing arts conferences. And she was still going. In 2012, Jessica started the work to realize her dream of producing a video illustrating respiratory function through 3D animation. 1 year later, after a lot of work and inhibiting, a little bit of tightening and shortening, the Art of Breathing, her DVD, was born. It's currently sold worldwide on Amazon, and you can go home and get one. They're good. She told me she's very pleased to find that it's being used as an educational tool in a wide variety of venues, such as acting studios, music studios, PT venues, psychotherapy practices, and more. The Spanish language version is about to make its debut, and there's little rumors of maybe Chinese version coming through. I use it in my classes. I do highly recommend it. Since qualifying in 1977, along with non-stop studying and teaching of the Alexander Technique and breathing coordination, Jessica raised 2 sons with her husband, Hal. So before inviting you up here to say a few words, Hal, who is Mr. Jessica Wolf, because you haven't met him yet, Hal Gessner is going to share just a little bit more about you with us, and then we look forward to hearing directly from you. Thank you so much.
Spencer and Dylan Gessner. Testimony to the effectiveness of solid food. And also why Jessica would complain from time to time that there was just too much testosterone. But we are so proud of you. And I just also like to take a second, Barbara, to congratulate you on this well-deserved honor. Barbara, by the way, was my first Alexander teacher back in the day when neither one of us had any gray hair. Yes, you and I have been on this journey together for a long time. And I have so much admiration for the career and the reputation you have built because I have seen what it took. Endless hours of hard work, creativity, passion, and the courage to put yourself out there. So here's to you, my darling.
Why doesn't everybody stand up and all this whisper and all? I need that. So let your breath out and allow a new one to return. And allow the breath out. And then you can all sit down again. I thank the committee for giving me this honor, for creating this glorious evening. And Judy Stern, I'm just in awe of you. Betty and Jessica and Joe, thank you. And many thanks to Joan Arnold and Lori Schiff and Bill Cunnington for your big-hearted contributions. This honor was unexpected, and I am deeply moved. Being honored alongside Barbara Kent is profoundly meaningful. Her commitment to the Alexander technique, as you've all heard, and our recognition of her skills and compassion inspire teachers all over the world. Being appreciated and acknowledged by my colleagues is deeply gratifying, beyond words. I want to thank all the devoted men and women here tonight who have come together to celebrate the 50th anniversary of ACAT. The American Center for the Alexander Technique, the oldest teaching training program in the United States, was founded to train teachers to disseminate information and to create a membership organization. Today, we can be proud that the technique is widely known. I smile to myself thinking about my experience of the technique and explaining the technique to people when I first began, because most people had never heard of it. When I began in 1975, I had 6 dynamic and different teachers. I have vivid memories of Judy and Debbie and Alana and Rachel and Inez and Eileen. I can recall their unique touch, the quality in each pair of hands. Now, many years later, I still am attending to some of the issues that they addressed about my own use, although with much greater knowledge of my habits. Today, when I teach private clients and groups of actors, I hear myself using phrases spoken to me by my teachers. Just last week at Yale School of Drama, Judy Leibowitz and I taught a class on walking together. And this brings to mind a wonderful memory when Judy one time told me that she lived on the second floor. She lived on the second floor of a building, a walk-up, and she told me she could identify her students by the footsteps. So you know this story, okay? So she could identify her students by the sounds of their footsteps on the stairs. That was astonishing to me. And whenever I give a table lesson, Debbie is there looking over my shoulder. I joined the training program when I was 23 years old. It took me time to discover the depths of the technique. First as a student, and then as a trainee, and to breathe it, to teach it. When my first teacher, Rachel Zahn, asked me to put my hands on her, I was surprised by what I felt. I wouldn't have imagined that I could perceive and physically sense how her thoughts were transmitted and transformed into her internal being. All of Rachel was beneath my hands. My training had a roller coaster quality. At first I was treading water, I was sinking in the complexity, and then surfacing towards simplicity. I learned to surrender judgment and simply observe the way I interfered with myself, gradually accessing my potential. I recognized how satisfying the technique could be. Slowly, I was connecting my work to my daily activities, feeling much less physical tension and finding more pleasure in movement. Another unexpected benefit enjoyed over the years of being part of this community is the gift of friendship. Meeting colleagues, talking technique, and exchanging lessons creates a special bond among us. Exchanges are a great way to develop ourselves, giving ourselves permission to explore, and as Judy would say, to dare to be wrong. As we continue to teach, we continue to unpack the technique. My friendships with my colleagues and fellow explorers are dear, deep, and lifelong. Judy and Debbie both sensed the potential of the Alexander technique. They were excited by the future. They didn't imagine, they're not imagining where it would go. Nor did I have any idea of where the technique would take me. At that time, I was struggling with issues around the breath, and it was this struggle that would eventually change my life when Eileen Crow suggested that I see a man named Carl Stow. Carl's work in breathing coordination informed and resonated with mine as an Alexander teacher. My 20-year collaboration with him produced a postgraduate training program called The Art of Breathing. I never imagined so much momentum would spur me along. My colleagues, all of you, helped me create the program. I will forever be grateful for your support. There are now 58 teachers who have completed the Art of Breathing training. And when I think about why the Art of Breathing has appealed to so many people, it's because breathing is as indispensable as the beating of our hearts. The incubation period for me to synthesize the Alexander technique and with the principles of breathing coordination took many years. Inspiration comes to meet us only once in a while. I had no choice but to follow it, to follow my curiosity, which led to my passion. Each day I teach, I feel fortunate to have found a profession that feels so worthy. I am devoted to it. And so Judy, Debbie, Marjorie Barlow, and F.M. Alexander himself all had it right. There are so many layers to this technique. Alexander emphasized the need for teachers to develop their own way of teaching, as long as they didn't abandon the essence. Innovation is desirable. There still remains much to be discovered. We may still be surprised at what we find. I want to acknowledge the support of someone I met while I was in training. My husband, Hal, who has been on this journey with me from the beginning. And I want to thank my sons for their love and support. I wonder what FM would feel standing here with us. He was a man who led himself into his own discovery and created a technique that has lasted well over a century. I think he would be proud looking out at this room tonight. Seeing so many Alexander teachers, I can't help myself but think very hopeful thoughts about the future. As we do our work, many have come to realize the Alexander technique is a method to help anyone of any age, with any challenge, without any talent, make meaningful changes. Each of our students can learn how to relieve the stress in their own ordinary lifestyle, to alleviate depression and anxiety, and to significantly reduce chronic pain. Through this unique educational process, they can learn to find healthy adaptations to neurological disorders. They can recover from respiratory conditions and learn to breathe freely. And performers can use this method, as Alexander did, to free their bodies and voices, channeling their gifts to convey the emotions and behavior, the conflicts and resolutions of all of us who suffer and survive. Every day, we continue to refresh and expand on FM's discovery. I am proud to be on this journey with you. Thank you.
Share some of the things that teachers and also some of Jessica's dedicated students have shared. Adele Packer, your influences run deep in my practice personally and with my students. Your discoveries and articulation on the breathing mechanism have clarified my understanding and inspired my own research and continued curiosity about how our thinking affects our breathing. And I just thought that was such a nice, typical way to express beautifully what a lot of us feel. Barbara Maloney had an experience of watching Jessica walk around in high heels. They just happened to run into each other in a Soho boutique. Barbara says, you were shopping for attire fancy enough to attend a black tie awards ceremony. So there you were, trying on high heels. The type I have always found too punishing to wear. As you thoughtfully paced the store, you assured me that moving well in heels was possible. We became engrossed enough in the consideration of your walk that I'm sure you were a memorable client for the saleswoman. I've never learned to love high heels, but that experience has come in handy with a few of my students, and on the rare occasion, even for myself. This seems such a fitting memory for one of our most elegant teachers. And Barbara's here from California. There she is. Well, there's too many here to read. You'll be relieved. But I wanted to read one from Graham Duncan. And he is not an Alexander teacher. He's a very devoted student of Jessica's. And I just thought what he said was an interesting example of the application of the work and how essential it is to our lives. I found Jessica to help my wife, Courtney, 6 years ago when she was pregnant with our first child. We've since had 2 more kids. Congratulations. And Jessica has guided us through all 3 pregnancies, and then the chaos of parenting and city life. The radiant strength of her direction is such that she affects our entire extended family system. All 3 of our kids' nervous systems and well-being have been tangibly affected by her lessons for me and my wife. My favorite direction of hers is, see out your eyes. Her own eyes are so bright that they provide a beacon for how to see and be. So there are many more words and pictures and fun things in these books, but I'm just going to read something that I thought it was really fun, what her family member said. One evening, many, many years ago, the phone rang in our loft. This is Hal Gessner. I answered, and the unmistakable basso voice of James Earl Jones said, "May I speak to Jessica?" Politely, I said, "May I tell her who's calling?" To which he chuckled and replied, "Tell her Mr. Jones is calling." And I thought, wow, this kid is going somewhere. And I wasn't talking about Mr. Jones. And I thought I would end with what Dylan wrote. Mom was studying and teaching the Alexander technique for 30 years before Lena Dunham made it cool by referencing it in her show, Girls. Mom is the original hipster. You know how much. Can I talk without a mic? Yes. Yeah. You know how much you're helping me? Oh, do you know?
We have a plan B here.
Wow.